What's good, agents? Welcome to the 9th episode of the TCG Core podcast. Today, we are unfortunately missing Dan. He's just out taking care of life, so maybe he'll be back in January or our February episode. But today, you just got me and Frawley. It's the end of the year, so a lot of fun things to talk about, and then you'll probably see us again in like a few weeks once we hit 2024. I think we're trying to kind of hit the ground running. But yeah, before I go into like a monologue and just start talking about our actual list, Frawley, how are you doing? How is your holidays?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really good. Very busy, but you know, keeping in the spirit, trying to do it. First off, I'll lead off with like happy holidays to everybody. I'm glad to be doing this podcast. We're almost like consistent on a year, episode 9. I've been feeling good about it, and it's nice to end this one with a bit of a bang and just kind of have a good time and just enjoy. Without any spoiler on any topics or nothing. Like, no one's gonna get too salty, hopefully. Who knows? We'll find out.
We're gonna make Frawley really upset. That's what we're gonna do. I don't know. We're gonna bring up something in regards to some Digimon and the surprise that we got. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, because I don't think we've talked about it at all. And it's been interesting to watch everybody's reactions, like content creators, people on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and just like online. It's just been interesting to see these reactions. So those of you guys who don't know, Bandai put out a ban list for Digimon. I think it was like a week ago now, if that. This ban list is going to go live in March. I want to say like the 3rd.
March 1st, I believe.
March 1st, shit. But this ban list is proactive. It hits EX5 and BT15. Right? I think it hits 15.
Yes.
And it's just like really weird that they've done this. I have thoughts. Frawley has thoughts. I'm gonna let you jump in first, though, sir.
I feel like this is all I've been talking about. Like, I'm so jealous of the Yu-Gi-Oh kids right now who just got their ban. Everyone's like, "This is pretty cool. I'm hype about it." Meanwhile, Bandai, okay. We'll start with the pros about this ban list. What do I like about this ban list? Bukamon gets hit. I really think Bukamon is like now just the infamous 5th egg for blue. If you're running a deck that wants to go fast and do stuff, unless you need draw cards, jamming's pretty good. But like also I agree that it was just the best egg, and it felt like it was going to be run. So what I like is we put this ban list out. We got it December 18th. We know it is good until March 1st, and we know that EX5 is legal for nationals. So EX5 will be at full power, even though this list kind of exists. So this is a weird part that a lot of people I think are going to be stuck at, where I have a box coming out, Gabumon X Antibody, Garurumon X Antibody, Anubismon, and I think that's everything from that set specifically. Yeah.
Yep.
Will all be hit come March. So it's like, it's partially good for investors in some respect. I feel like if you really wanted to like foil out these decks and stuff, people would get pissed because they had done it ahead of time. But it does feel like the negatives about this ban list for me is like, I feel like they took a lot of easy outs on stuff instead of trying to errata or fix stuff. Apocalypse, you're going to get a month of Apocalypse, if that, maybe 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of Apocalypse before they hit a secret to 1. Now, the first time a secret's gone on the list.
Yep.
And doesn't feel like the most splashable thing. Like when people were calling for Death X Head, that thing was in every deck.
Yes.
Apocalypse doesn't feel like it's very splashable. You require Dark Masters. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that was its problem. So they really just want this deck down in the water. And then it's weird to be like, you have so much time with the deck and it's legal for nationals, and then we're going to hit it. There's parts of me that feel like it's really good that they stepped up and did stuff ahead of time, but there's also part of me where I'm like, we are getting this curated edition that Japan sets for us, where they went, that was nutty, it was too much, America, we're going to cut it. And I feel like people have been calling because they want that kind of meta. Some people just want a raw meta, and I feel like this is the first time where I kind of agree with them, where I'm like, I'm going to get this deck full blown on me for like a month, but man, you're hitting 2 of your newest products. Like, they got to be hurting over there for doing that.
It's interesting, right? Like, I kind of feel like, now, because it's decks that I personally don't play and have zero intention of playing, I don't want to say I don't care, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because for Nats in Worlds, technically, right? Because I can't remember when Digimon's World is. You're going to have...
January.
EX5 running around doing what it needs to do anyway, right? Like, you're gonna see why things were limited immediately, which is what I think is interesting, right? They're still like, okay, like, you can play the decks at full power. They're gonna do the things that we don't want them to do going forward for Nats, so you can still spend all the money you want to spend on EX5. People probably won't buy boxes, they'll just buy singles, which makes sense, because there's really no need, because you're basically gonna amass these cards, and then you're gonna ship them off pretty much right in March. I think them hitting BT15 before it comes out with Apocleamon, I mean, I haven't seen the Dark Masters deck like do anything because I haven't watched any content around it. Y'all know I've been in Dragon Ball land for like the past 6 months, but I kind of fall on the side of like, but I would rather them hit it ahead of time. Unlike the Shoutmon EX, was it X3 or X4 that they hit like basically immediately after it came out, and people had like foiled the deck, they spent all this money, and then the card was worth nothing. So I feel like they listened to the response they got last time and said, you know what, let's do this ahead of time and just call it good. I have seen a lot of people you kind of touched on this, but have brought up about like, this can't be good for them financially, like, to do this, because it's 2 sets and it's gonna basically like, people aren't gonna be spending as much money, and it's really just gonna be good for the secondary market, not really good for them primarily. But I almost think that with Bandai, I don't think they care, right? I think for them it's like, it's 1 set. If anything, they probably feel like it's gonna be better for the will of of players. Like, people are gonna stick around more rather than being like, screw this game, waiting for the ban list for Apocleamon and Wereguard not to be hit, and have to deal with it for however many sets we'd have to deal with it, because the Wereguard stuff would only get more powerful when you look at what comes out with BT15. So I kind of understand why they would kind of hit it preemptively, kind of like they did with the War Greymon stuff on this end with the metal, or what is it,
Greymon X antibody. Oh yeah,
from the Greymon X
antibody is that.
Yeah, so I get why they're hitting it. I don't think it's bad. I also don't think it's a decision where people should be like, oh my god, I can't believe Bandai would do this. They have a plan. I mean, we're about to get some big announcement, which by the time this video comes out, it will probably have already happened. I think it's like tomorrow, about whatever this new thing is, and there's probably going to be some kind of monetization in there. So especially if it's like an online client, which it kind of looks like it could be, but we'll see. I don't think they're going to do what they did to the Dragon Ball people and make a new game, but I don't know. I just think that, like, it doesn't seem like the end of the world. It seems good to me because it feels like it shows that they're listening and at least trying to adjust how they respond to things ahead of time, rather than letting players spend stupid amounts of money only to have to sell it off like the next day, which is kind of what happened in the past.
That's a really interesting point. I didn't consider what you were saying of, hey, like, we hit this a little bit kind of a deal, but ahead of time. Is it better to live in the Beelzemon players world where it is your game up until Bandai says no? Or is it better to know ahead of time that this thing that's whooping ass is gonna be touched because it probably needs to be touched? You brought it up with the Garurumon X. That does feel like a parallel ban. That feels... you got no time with it. I will say that. Again, like, right. Or you're getting your I guess 2 months, because mid-January. So you're getting some time with it, but you're right. Like, BT15 also has a secret Metal Garurumon, and that has a whole nother line. So I feel like, and I don't remember, but I want to say I mentioned this in a previous episode. Like, if you were a Melga player, you were about to start eating good for the next little bit, because you got a starter deck, and then you got this, and then you got BT15. So I feel like this is also obvious. Like, maybe a lot of people were counting on it and thought Melga was coming back for another bit, and Bandai wasn't paying attention to it as much. Granted, these cards can't go in other decks. Like the Gabumon X, maybe a little bit less, but but you were looking for a searcher. You were gonna get yourself protection. Like, it was doing what it was going to do. It's weird that they're positioning Leviamon to be the purple deck of the format then, with your regular form and then your EX antibody form coming to BT15. So that's weird that purple players. And then also, I almost wanted to bring this up because I had thought about it today. It felt like we always have this where we have a ban list, we have a little bit of a break, and then we have a final ban list for nationals. I feel like that's what happened last year. Yeah. And with this one, the last ban list felt way better. I don't know. I felt more confident about it. I like that cards came off it. We talked for hours about it, but scatter mode got put on it, and we were like, "Yep, that makes sense. All these decks are coming that are crazy and use it, so we got to ban it." But then they hit all those decks. Like I'm almost waiting for them to be like, "Oh, also March 1st, scatter mode comes off the list." Because all this goes on the list, that comes off the list. Like, it feels weird to almost like. Do you feel like when we touched about it that it was about cutting Purple's power down and like mediating these decks before they came out, and now we see a follow-up response? I just don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like two things, right? It feels like Purple will probably still be good, right? It's just that Melga is really impacted by this the most. But also, it feels like it's more future-proofing for, okay, cool, Weregar or Metal, I don't know why I always call it Weregar instead of just Metal Karumon, but Melga is going to be, like, good, like, kind of War Greymon style. Coming up, it looks like it's going to get a lot more support, and it'll probably get more support past BT 15, 16, etc., in various ways. So it feels like the Melga hits are really just future-proofing. As far as a Pokemon, it seems like you could probably make the same argument in case they do more Dark Master stuff. It could be like, yeah, well, we don't want this to be the de facto thing that is used into Oblivion, which I don't know if that's good or bad. Again, it's a deck that I haven't watched be played. I've just heard it's freaking insane. And there could be concerns around, okay, but how many people will drop out of the game because of this? Right? Like, I don't know. I'm sure that they have a better sense of like those numbers of like what brings people in and out and kind of like how that impacts the player base and the kind of community that they want to continue to foster. So I don't know if it's gonna, how we talked about before about them cutting Purple's power. I think that's still there. I just want to see now, okay, what is the community going to build and play come March 1st? Will we have more diverse formats? Because Japan, it was basically all purple. If you weren't playing a purple something, you weren't playing the game. And I think that they're really trying their best to avoid that. Who knows how successful it will be once the time actually comes, because I feel like players outside of Japan, when we are given these weird, not even weird, these constraints, somebody always finds a way to make some craziness happen. And I think it's going to be the quest for the new craziness until, BT, what is that, 16? Yeah.
Purple feels like the problem color right now. It's got the most cards on the list. I mean, green holding that for a little while, right? With like stuff, but could hidden potential come back? Are we at a point where that's not as threatening as it was? At 4, I think it's crazy. Yeah. And maybe that's the thing, is with them only choosing to do 1 and like down to 1 or none for lists and no semi-limited or anything like that. Maybe that's also a constraint. I think my other thing with the Pokemon is it felt a little lazy. Like, could this not be eroded? Could we maybe make it where it only gets 3? Like, we affect how much it gets reduced by. Because that deck, from what I've seen of it, from a little bit of Japanese VODs and stuff, is it really relied on the draw 7, mill 5 combo. So Demi-Marimon purple, Gabumon from BT1 or BT2, and then scatter mode. All like all of those are down to 1. You only have 1 draw 7 trash 5 if you hit the right combo and you hit the right thing per deck now. So that feels like it was crazy, because you could set up 3 Dark Masters in the trash really easy, 3 or 4, and get them down. Where it's like that deck doesn't have that. You're right, there could be future stuff that we don't even know yet. But with them going into like the new Adventure 2 thing with the movie and following that route, I'm just wondering how long before we're circling back on this, because I don't know. I feel like a Pokemon feels dead in the water come March. I haven't played enough against it in like online games or testing in clients and stuff. Right. It's a busy time, but yeah, like I just wonder about that, because I agree with you on Melga. Like, Melga is the antithesis to it's the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes. They're always gonna get support. They're there. They're just going to get support. But Anubis is a funny one too, because like you were saying, everyone was purple. And this last meta we've had felt very diverse. When we got our pie chart, it was like pretty split up. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball still have those charts that like sometimes it's almost everybody in something, but like, and then like, but at least you still have like 4 or 5 distinct other guys there. It's not sliver, 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 sliver. So I agree with you. Maybe they want to keep this meta. I feel like this meta is fairly balanced. But it's interesting to be like, you're right. What is the quest for the new crazy? And is purple just the problem color? This is just ruining everything. We gave it 2 strong abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think purple is weird because in other games, right, you have ways to interact with your opponent's trash. What? Right now you have 1 card, and it's the Omnimon that's going to cost 6 if it's not in like an Omnimon-centric deck. Other than that, you can't touch your opponent's trash. There's no Banish Zone, there's no Lost Zone, there's no Warp, there's nothing you can really do to your opponent's trash. And until then, purple, I think, will continue to be, when I say untouchable, I mean like, it has a lot of stuff you cannot interact with, right? Because it uses a resource that like you can't mess with. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because I think that like then you get into this weird place of like, well, if you add cards that screw with your opponent's trash, then purple becomes dead. So it's like this weird thing of like, how do you balance that? I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if you have like a reload mechanic where like you make your opponent shuffle their trash into their deck. I have no idea, right? And that is something that could be useful against any color. No idea. What color should have that ability? Like, there's a lot there where I think with purple's advantages that make it more susceptible to having like these really weird moments of like, shit. Like, what do we do aside from errata, ban, limit without breaking the color? I don't know the answer to that question. Because I do think niche cards like Omnimon, well, I see the image of the card in my head and I can't.
Merciful mode.
Merciful mode. Thank you, sir. Merciful mode is a great answer. It can go in damn near every other deck. But like, do we need more merciful, like mini merciful mode types of cards to balance that can go everywhere? I don't know. Maybe.
I think the only other thing I could think of was like Avenge Kidmon, which all Lilithmon players ran back in the day, so they didn't mill themselves out of putting all your options back into your deck. But you're right; those feel like the only ones that are there. And though Merciful Mode is great, the other thing that my thought to this is always the security control situation is like the purple player situation, which is like mill is always something that's viable against them because they're doing so much of themselves. Even if you're running a little bit of mill, you might be able to get them to that critical point. But we also gave that to purple. So it's really weird that we almost... And red has... So red, purple... I've been running the Growlmon line from EX3, I believe. So purple, red, high mill. And then Avenge Kidmon is red. But those are the only other things that are teching stuff back into decks. It'd be nice, like you're saying, to be able to run... And I don't know, because this doesn't feel balanced off the top, but like, if you said something of like, hey, so many level 3s go back into your opponent's deck from trash. Like, if there's a guy you could hard play, and then probably a mechanic based off like either how many cards are in trash or something like that for like upping the level. But I have no idea, because you're going to have cards like Leviamon that come back from the trash too. And without the ability to like, they seem to be trying to do it by printing the floodgates of can't play Digimon by effect.
Yeah.
That's the Fenrir Lugamon hit right now. That's the Leviamon trash stuff. But it's like, you're requiring me to have a floodgate on board that I had to hard play most likely because I'm not playing them by effect.
Yeah.
And that's your answer. It doesn't feel up to it. Like, thank God for Fenrir, where it does feel like it sticks way more because they do all their effects at the end of it. So it's like, cool, like, don't play any Digimon. Or like Crimson Blaze I've put back into decks because prevent them from being played by effect, but maybe it's not enough, or this feels like the blocker situation where like, well, we have aggressive decks, we'll have blocker decks, and everyone's like, it's just better to be aggressive.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless your whole deck is walling up, you should just be aggressive because they're going to be aggressive.
Yeah. Blocker decks are literally only good for pre-release events. Like, that's the only time that like the blockers feel like good. You know, but this goes back to something too that like Dan and I have talked about, we have all talked about in various conversations. It may have come up in a podcast episode of like, this is why Digimon can't have side decks. Like, you cannot put side decks in this game only because there are so many cards where you just put in and it's like, cool, my opponent's deck doesn't work anymore. Like, it doesn't matter what they do, you can't play the game. And it's a weird thing where I feel like this game is still trying to navigate its own mechanics. and figure out how do we break them but not break them entirely. How do we massage like weird situations that happen because some decks are just too powerful, they're too consistent, because this game relies on a certain level of RNG. Whether that's good or bad, it's a whole separate conversation, but like it's like they're trying to decide like what are the core tenets of the game, and like how do we want those tenets to be followed regardless of power creep, regardless of like all these different factors that go into making a card game. Which is why, going back to the original point, circling all the way back, that's why I like that they're doing the ban list ahead of time, so that like the players can start taking a step back and figure this shit out now, rather than figuring out after you spend all this money. Like that's always my thing with games like this, but specifically Digimon, of like, if you want a max rater, you know, you got like your alt arts, you got your 4 secrets and all this other extra crap. And by the time you do that, you may have spent like $200 depending upon, you know, the deck. But yeah, it's just a weird design space. It's a weird design space. I mean, the fact that we can't shuffle still blows my mind. And like it works, but I hate it sometimes.
No, that's I think that you're right. If we're going to take any positive out of this, it's the fact that you aren't going to buy 4 alt art Apocalypse, especially with the fact that he has 2 alt arts. He's got the old school art and his alt art. So I agree with you. I feel like that's the best thing to come out of it. There is just a part of me that is left feeling kind of about it though, where I don't know what the solution is, and I'm offering like rough ideas. I'm not in a design space. If you ask me to balance a card, I guarantee I could only do like vanillas and stuff. So it's hard, and I like to see that Bandai still like falls in the trap that other games do. I feel like Konami used to suffer the most from this with Yu-Gi-Oh, which is like support that you haven't thought about in 16 years, but it's relevant now and it's useful because you said the words that are on this card.
Yeah.
So it's weird to see Bandai kind of do that after 3 years, where they're like, we've got this, and sometimes we just don't have this, or we don't understand the factor. And like you say, with a game that has a little bit less interaction in some respects, or at least more telegraphed interactions, Purple, a deck that can control what it gets, when it gets, how it gets it, feels like it's playing with a superpower that the other cards aren't really having.
Yeah.
Like Red has punch fast and punch hard, sure, and like even getting a little bit of protection has caused like so many problems. There's cards that feel like irremovable after that, unless you're like, doing something weird to it. So it's just weird to see a secret finally go on the ban list too, and one that I never expected. I expected Death X 4 times before Apocalypse was going to be the dude. Yeah, and yeah. So I think we've covered the ban list fairly well. I understand all the cards that are on here, especially Anubis leading to infinites like Minerva loops, and they are trying to avoid. I feel like Lilith loop is one of the things that Bandai still dreads, and they're still thinking about. And they're like, Beelzebub was good, and we left him pretty good, but we took a core piece away because that was too much. A step too far. And I'm interested to see what, with last ban list taking cards off, where this leaves us for next ban list. Like, is next ban list the one where like, hey, we were really hard, let's reevaluate where everything is. Yeah. Because if people aren't buying boxes of this, I will say, as we were saying in the middle of this, if people just stick to singles and stuff, if you have stuff from this, like, people are going to need it and people are going to want it. So on release, people are going to want it because they don't want to buy a box. And if any of this stuff gets taken off the list, it'll go back up. Like, even if they just take the Gabu off, I guarantee you see stuff. Even if they leave Garurumon on there forever, you will see these things fluctuate.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how people kind of like respond, because, you know, I'm a case buyer. I probably will not be buying a case of BT 15, which is fine because I don't really know what I want from that set anyway. For me personally, like, it's just singles for me anyway. EX5, I think I just want the Apollomon stuff because it looks really cool. But yeah, it should be interesting. It just, keep your eyes on TCG Player. That's really all I gotta say about that.
I mean, with it being the 2 sets that I really wasn't the most hyped for anyways, like a little bit of Machine Dramon support out of 15, that was nice for me. I was gonna take that. EX5 had like nothing for me anyways, so it's weird to see like in January and February where you're not gonna have the most cash anyways to be spending. It's gonna suck for locals like mine, where like we're just stuck with our usual order of this and it's not popping off the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I agree. Like, what were you looking forward to in this set, if anything? I've been going through the list on Digi.dev for a little bit, and it's like there's a couple cards here and there, but really there was not like a deck I was looking to play.
Yeah. It's just pieces. It's pieces. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think we can jump past unless you have any other thoughts on really the state of Digimon at that point.
I don't know. I think we're in a state of flux going into year 3. They are 3 years into designing this game. They're designing a lot of games right now. I feel like there will be missteps, but if that is truly the client announcement tomorrow we were talking about of this, it won't make up for this, but I will be significantly happier than I am currently.
Yeah, that will be the thing. Let's hope Bandai announces something good and not a waste of our freaking time. But kind of like, you know, this year's been an interesting year for card games, right? You had Lorcana come out, which has been like a whirlwind. Now product is cheap as hell, or at least it's normalized prices, thank God, which we all knew was going to happen. They're just going to print it to oblivion, which is the thing that they should do. And then, of course, we had that wild-ass announcement of Fusion World after getting played with the online client. It's been an interesting year for card games in general. I would just be curious, like, what are some of the highlights and maybe a couple lowlights for you this year? They don't have to necessarily be announcements. They could just be like whether placings and like events that you played in, that kind of stuff.
I was thinking about this earlier today because I feel like, especially in the last couple of years, I've really gotten to the TCG scene. And every year hasn't felt really distinct, but I feel like there was a lot of things this year for me personally that really resonated or got me in a way with things. Like the advent of online play and like people modding clients to be able to play in is so healthy for games that it makes me hope that on the earlier point of if it is an announcement of the online client tomorrow, I'm gonna be so happy because I'm going to be able to cram games whenever I want, and it's gonna be so much easier for me to talk people into it. Because I feel like anyone can approach a card game and get into it if you like stake it. Not everything's for you, not every game's for you, but there's definitely stuff that like you can get it, and like you can go to locals and regionals. Like I don't think I did much but like the online regionals this year, but I enjoyed all of my time with it. I like that some prizing got better and Ultimate Cup got a complete rework. I'm really interested for that because it feels like Meta 2.0.
Yeah.
So that was a weird thing. Fusion World taking a complete spin and just being like, hey, new game and Digimon keywords, which is really funny. Because now I'm hearing older like Dragon Ball Z fans do this to me now where they're like, oh, wait, our cards look like your cards. I'm like, yeah, no, it clearly is like it's on play, it's when attacking, it's real clear on a lot of this stuff. Like auto doesn't mean it just goes off. So seeing that was very strange to me. Watching the TCG scene grow, at least in my maybe I'm just consuming more of it because I'm seeing more of it, but I feel like I've had so many couples, people, anyone just being like, hey, I've been looking at getting into a card game. Lorcana got so many families into card games. I like that. I feel like there's been growing pains with each TCG as well this year, a little bit here and there, like overprinting in Magic and like ridiculous hard hits like SP Little Knight in Yu-Gi-Oh! I've seen growing pains where people have like switched over to games or have started testing the waters everywhere else. Which is funny to me because I feel like people are usually so stuck in their ways. So it's nice to see people branch out and be like, oh, I've been trying a little bit of Commander even though I play this. So that's been a bit of a highlight for me. It's just seeing more and more people get into this and be able to share this hobby and be able to drop in with people. Low levels. I think almost every I think most TCGs had something that disappointed me a little bit with this year, whether it be like releasing on time or product being able to find, like Lorcana not being anywhere and Ravensburger just being like, we're gonna print it to the ground and we're gonna do it for enough people, and being like, you don't know what that means. There's just been a couple drops where it's like it feels bad to be able to do on the opposite side of that foot. It feels bad to drop people to be like, hey man, I've got nothing of what you're looking for. I just don't have that, and I can't offer you a space. Like, oh, do you guys have tournaments? Well, no, Lorcana's not doing tournaments until next year. So I have nothing to offer you except for, hey, show up and play because we have some people playing. That kind of sucked for me, where I'm just like, what is this tournament launch? Tournament prizing for some Bandai games I've been hearing complaints about. Everyone's mad except for Battle Spirits because you get money. And it makes sense because they own Battle Spirits, so they don't got to give nobody money out of that. Yeah. So, yeah, no, I think those would be like my highest highs and my lowest lows of this year. I'd be interested in hearing yours, though.
Mine highs is just, this year has been a wild year for me in terms of getting deeper into card games on the competitive side. So, like, all kinds of just placings that, like, just kind of blow my mind when I sit down and think about it. So, you know, in the Ulti Cup, can't remember which one it was. I think it was the one before, like, I think it was the last one before they kind of announced, like, whatever. I don't remember which one it was, but I placed 17th, and it was like a full tournament. We streamed it and everything. And, like, I forget about that one even happening, honestly, because shortly after that, I started playing Dragon Ball. And getting into Dragon Ball this year has been the best decision as far as card games go for me in a long time. I absolutely love this game. The community's been pretty cool. That also goes into lowlights, but like overall it's been pretty cool. I've met a lot of other people that I talk to pretty often, that we run games all the time. Going out to Florida and meeting Dan and Rick was dope. Playing in that tournament, placing, what was it, 19th there as well, and then 19th again in another Dragon Ball Regional was just like insane. As like a newbie, kind of. I mean, I played it when it first came out for like a little bit, and then I fell off. Then I came back to it and like set 15, then I fell off. I came back to it again, and now it's like for real. I think for me that like that's been a really big highlight, is just like getting deeper into card games on a competitive sense. And I feel like that's just been great in terms of just like coming up with this podcast with you guys and like being able to like discuss things and like do so competently and like really kind of understand like what the fuck we're talking about, and it not just be like this super casual thing, which I don't think there's anything wrong with playing these things casually, but it's just been fun to dive deeper and kind of double click down and really, you know, whatever. Not to use work terms, Jesus. Man,
double click down.
Yeah, man, you know, double click into things. Communications is just, anyway. Lowlights, cheaters, bro. There are too many cheaters in these card games, and it blows my mind, like the lengths people will go for what to me feels like nothing. Like, yes, I love competitive stuff. I think that's cool. I think it's fun. I'm overly competitive in like fighting games and stuff like that, but like the lengths people will go, like hiding cards in their headband, putting cards off to the side like no one's gonna see them reaching over, people turning things sideways and pretending like they didn't, like, or taking things from their discard pile and it magically appears in their hand. Like, it's just the level of like just desperation, I guess, over something that's like fun and like shouldn't dictate the course of your life, but like seemingly it does, because it's just the stupid ass things people do for like for what? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's recorded, hundreds of people are watching. Like, I don't understand why people are doing this. I think for me that's been a real low light for just like card games, is just like seeing that behavior across games. Like, it's not just Dragon Ball, it's like everywhere, and it's just weird. I just think it's weird, and it's just been like it reminds me of getting into like a fandom and just remembering, oh yeah, there's a toxic side to this fandom, and it doesn't matter how much I love it, but like there's a negativity there. I think like that for me has been a really big kind of like low light. I do a good job, I think, of avoiding a lot of it, like, but it's just weird. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the biggest low light. Everything else is just like, feels very much just like, it's par for the course. I mean, I guess the whole Fusion World thing, but frankly, the more that we've gotten from that announcement, the more that they've been announcing things for it, I'm kind of excited for it. Like, it's an opportunity to play another card game, which I don't need, but like it seems like it could be fun.
I don't want to feel bandwagony, but that's definitely, if I'm going to play Dragon Ball at this point, I'm probably going to try the new one that is more familiar with the keywords that I'm like already kind of familiar with. And you're right. I feel like this was a year also of like large announcements and some of it seeming so crazy or like prediction so big, and it really being like pretty much standard. Like Fusion World was one of the bigger ones where it was like, hey man, whole other card game, but we're still supporting the first one, and we'll still be creating product for it. I don't know for how long, but they will. And then we're also going to do this other game we're doing. So it was big at the time, but even now I'm like, well, I mean, people who are going to play Dragon Ball are going to play Dragon Ball. That just seems to be the case. Some of them want to branch out and try new things, and some of them are just like, nah, dog, I'm good. Cheating is one I can feel you on, where I'm like, I feel like anyone who gets competitive over anything, anyone and competitive in the sense of like you care, right? You're putting time, effort, energy in, you're practicing, you care about this thing. And I think some people let that get to them to the point of, well, I cannot lose this. I've put too much into this to lose. I really enjoyed the One Piece cheater the other day where I can't remember who posted it. I think it was Mario, actually, from Mario Gaming's World, where he was like shuffling his graveyard and picking up and picking up, and then like put it like you watch one card because you put him face down, I believe. So he like slides it over and then like flips it over as it's just like going down, and it was just crazy to watch. You'd be like, man, people who are sleight of hand or people who need the edge will get the edge. But I think this overall, I'm so sad that metrics for card games aren't as robust as I'd like them to be, because I want better data sets and I want more. Maybe this is one of those things about you complain about enough, it's going to be you, but I can't take all that information, but I gotta know who's playing what and where, and not just tournaments. Like, what is the scene like? Because I want to say every community grew this year. I don't know if that's fully true,
that's fair.
But I didn't see too many people jumping ship, unless they were jumping ship of card games entirely. Like, or people like trading in to go to other card game, because they're like, okay, I'm just sick of this one, I'm going into this one because I like it. So I want to know what the overall growth was for the community, because I feel like through hiccups and stuff through this year, like this is one of those years where I think I've played the most cardboard in my life, and like at a casual level, at a competitive level, at like a hangout level, like not that's become my whole life, but there's been a lot of times where I'm just like, man, it's 1 a.m. and I would like to be throwing cardboard at someone. Because there is something to it. Like, we've talked about community, or we've talked about like connections, but playing a card game with someone is a more intimate thing than like a lot of people I think give it credit for. Online lobbies have done that to us, where it's like you are just a name on a screen, and if I can emote at you, I will emote at you. But when you sit down with someone, you got to sit there and talk with them and like play a card game. It's wildly different. So I would like to believe, like, based off absolutely no facts that I have, I would like to believe that card games grew this year, and like there was, and for most communities, I can't name something that like dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I would agree. It feels that way. I mean, when people, and I've said this a million times, the people like Dragon Ball's dead. It does not feel dead. As someone who's been like getting deeper, it does not feel dead at all. It feels smaller, but it doesn't feel dead. It feels like, no, there's just more committed people to this game, and there's more people who like know their shit, but it doesn't feel like it's dying. You had One Piece, which is massive. It's absurdly massive. Digimon feels like it's Digimon and like it's doing its thing. It doesn't feel like it's dying either. Maybe it had that period where it was slower, but it didn't feel like it was dying. Lorcana is Lorcana. It's growing. It's especially now with like prices declining and you can get your hands on product and try stuff. You know, I agree. I don't feel like any game like took a hit this year. Other people may have different opinions. It just doesn't feel that way, having been more invested into the communities, really plural, this year compared to like last.
I do feel like there is a wave of people who like surge into every card game. It feels like there truly is like an ebb and flow of like people who come in and they're playing for a little bit and they're out, and sometimes they're back in. But like there's also like just a wave of like, oh, everyone's playing Digimon. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, One Piece. And then like you just have this wave of people going. So I understand what you're saying when you're like, no, this is people who like this game, so they are stuck in this game. And Dragon Ball players have been playing for 5 years. Like, that's hard to just give up on if you also care. And it's a really fun game mechanically to play, so it doesn't feel like it gets stale. I mean, I'm sure mirror matches are the same thing over and over again would get stale, but you have so much variety to play against in that game. And it feels like even when you're playing rogue decks, everything's got a chance. Some things feel like they're over before they begin, but everything's got a kind of a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and like Dragon Ball, I think it's actually been around for like 7 or 8 years now. Like it's it's been around for a hot minute. So like you know, it's one of those things where it's like it's not dying. The fact that it survived this long compared to some of the old Dragon Ball games where I bring them up on the stream and I talk to people, I'm like, what game is that? I'm like, yeah, the Score TCG one from like when we were in middle school. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, what? You know, and Digimon's another one where like if you look up there's so many versions of the Digimon card game, it is absurd. I think there's more Digimon versions of Digimon than there are of like combined Bandai games out right now. Like there's a lot of Digimon games that have run the gamut. Makes no sense. But yeah, it's been an interesting year for card games. I think it's been a lot happening. You have more on the horizon. There's a Star Wars game coming out next year in like February or March or something like that. Then you have Fusion World coming out. Like there's a lot. And then you have indie games this year too, like Grand Archive, which looked really cool. I didn't get into it. I wanted to, and then I just didn't because I'm playing too many games. And I'm sure that there's some other ones. I've even seen like more virtual, like kind of like not Hearthstone style games coming out this year too. Like if you check Steam, there's a lot of games that are in early access or beta. It's just seeming like card games since COVID have become much more of a thing across the gaming space, whether that be tabletop, in person, virtual. It just seems like card games are having a weird renaissance right now, which is great. And I really hope that continues into like next year and the following.
Well, the addition of like the phone being so readily accessible and internet connections being better, so like it's also more feasible to fit it in if you got to take a train or a bus to work, or you can get a game in. It's so accessible at the fingertips. I feel like that's the thing. So, I mean, speaking of like both people going to new games and you know there being a renaissance of train card games, we have that brand new 5th Bandai TCG that we know has been in Japan for I think. Like 2 years? I don't have a metric on that.
I want to say it's like 6 months and some change. It's newer. I don't think it's 2 years yet. It's newer. It might be longer than 6 months. It might be like a year.
As you can see, I do extensive research before I talk about any topic on this podcast. I just want you to know that I'm a consummate professional. But yeah, the TCG number 5 for Bandai, they're all doing so good. We put another one out. I hope you like Kokios, which I do. So I mean that's for me. But it's Weiss Schwarz 2, maybe.
Yeah, I am shocked. I did not think it would come here because of licensing. Like I really thought it just wouldn't get outside of Japan because some of these other IP are wrapped up in other companies and maybe some of these rights are expiring. I don't know. Because like Universe's My Hero is in Versus System, and that's a thing that's in Fusion, not whatever, Union Arena. Jesus. So like I'm just like how are some of these titles coming over here? I'm not mad at it. It's just surprising. I'm actually before we started recording, I haven't finished watching a video of like how to play, because y'all, I'm real tempted to go to Amazon right now. They got stuff for like $40. You get a booster box just to open cards and like have them. I don't know who I'd play with, but can't read them. But like I'm so tempted just to kind of experience it myself. But Union Arena is coming, y'all. It is on the way.
So I feel like I know your answer before I fully ask it, but like, we were having a light discussion on if we think it's gonna be like a Weiss Schwarz thing where it's like you just buy an anime for a set, and what I mean by that is Weiss Schwarz develops sets in which you have a full anime that's dedicated to one booster box and they can't intermingle really. So like Spy X Family I think just got one a little while ago. And what's really cool about Weiss Schwarz is my favorite thing. They have way too many rarities. I hate that, but their top rarity that I like is typically the voice actor or like the writer for the manga or something like that will sign cards. It's obviously a stamp, but it's so cool to get that kind of rarity. I would love to see that kind of thing in this game. But do you think this is going to be something where we can intermingle, where I can put Ichigo and Gon in my deck and like run them together, or do we think this is gonna be more Weiss Schwarz where it's like, cool, you have Jujutsu Kaisen, you have nothing else, I hope you like him.
It is going to be you get one series, so it's one series per deck. That's it. You can't intermingle. But thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? My wallet, I think, appreciates that, because that means that when a booster box comes out, if I don't care about the series, I'm not buying it. So it kind of makes it so that I can like really focus, because Bandai has too many goddamn games out. So I'm not buying another case of something else unnecessarily. I know that for me, Bleach is what that's what I'm getting. Until the Bleach stuff comes out, I'm not buying. I mean, if I buy, it'll be like a starter deck just to try the game officially. But the Bleach stuff, yes. Tekken, yes, because I saw that there's Tekken stuff. Sword Art Online, maybe. But yeah, it's gonna be. I feel like it will be better for being selective about what I buy, compared to some of these other games.
That's fair. I definitely feel like there is. We keep saying that there's no room, because I feel like there is kind of no room for more stuff. They keep putting more stuff out, and it keeps getting bought. So people have room. It is apparent to me. I'm just underestimating people. I feel like that's a really weird lifespan for a game, though, of like they're really rooting on people from different fandoms to A, be into a card game, and B, commit to it only for like as a casual person. How do I just go in and get a couple packs of Demon Slayer because I like Demon Slayer, versus a person who's like, cool, Demon Slayer's coming out, I buy a box, I might buy 2 boxes, I go from there, I build my decks. Like, I'm never built in a meta where like almost every card in your box is relevant or buildable. I guess that sounds more convenient than like saying it aloud, but it's also one of those things like, will it be? I mean, I keep going back to White Shores, or no, Vanguard. Oh, I'll pick on Vanguard. Vanguard was releasing. They had unmixable factions, and they were releasing products 3 times the speed of everything else, because there's 26 factions, and if these 5 factions aren't yours, cool, this box isn't for you.
Yeah.
So that's almost doing it a different way. I'm more scared of, even Digimon is like every 2 months a new box. Same with Dragon Ball. I'd say most card games, just spare like maybe Magic. It's like 2 months a set, and then in between some of those sets will be a side set.
Yeah.
So like every month there's product. There's just so much cardboard going around. Like I like the idea of Union because it's an anime train card game, and like I've never got to play the Inuyasha card game or the Naruto card game, but like those are things I would have been into as a kid. Yeah. So I can see people getting hype. And I know there are some sets that like look interesting. Like the fact that Demon Slayer is a newer set, that's cool. That's hot right now. The kids love it. I'm sure everyone will let me call them the kids. That's perfect.
It's fine. We'll just speed past it. So 2 things. One, because we're doing live erratas, guys. First, the Dragon Ball Super card game was 2017, so it's going into year 7 next year. So it probably was basically right. So
close without going over.
Yeah. So bam. I was thinking of like there was the proto game before then that was like Cardis, which came out when I was in college, so like 2015. Neither here nor there. So that's going into year 7. Union Arena came out March 2023 of this in March this year is when it came out in Japan. So we'll get it. We'll be like a year and a half behind. So that being said, to what you were saying about releases, I'm curious to see, which we can go back and look at some point, how they did the releases in Japan, because I think what they do like boxes in like bundles. Like I'm pretty sure there's like a couple series that come out at the same time, and then you pick from that. I'm pretty sure that's how they were doing it. Oh. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how they were doing it. But because we'll be like a year out or a year and a half out, I wonder if we'll have the same decks to choose from at the start, like how that will work. If they'll be like, yes, here's the Ichigo deck, the Gon deck, and the Jujutsu Kaisen deck all at the same time. Here are the 3 boxes. Go have fun. I'm also curious with this series thing, and maybe for any of you guys who are watching who are Wise Schwartz players, like when you buy a booster box from a specific show, is there like one standout deck that's in that set that you know, like this is the best deck from this set that's just Fate Stay Night? But like, what does that mean for the other 3 decks that are in that set? You know what I mean? Like, I want to know like what's the balancing like that? How does that work? Because like how many decks do I get out of this box? And is there like one perfected deck that I should be looking for in each format? Which seems like that could get old very fast, because if you only care about one deck type, like what's my incentive to keep trying new things? Like, I don't know. I don't doubt that this will be successful. I'm just curious to see, like, when it comes to competitiveness, what does that look like and how does that manifest? Like, am I only playing one deck until a year later when the Bleach Part 2 comes out, or when the Dragon Ball thing comes out, or when the Gundam thing comes out? Like, how does that work? These are questions that I'm sure that we could find the answers to if we just went and looked at how Japan does it and how Y Schwartz does it. But y'all know that's not how we do things on this podcast. And we're missing Dan. So, you know, we miss one less research person.
It's truly the glue. It's really the filter in between. No, but I think, of course, there's got to be like multiple decks in a box, but there might just be like one optimal, or something where it's like being able to use like Bleach. Like, I'm sure if you had like a couple of the swordsmen probably have a deck, Ichigo and crew probably have a deck. So either you get like multiple heroes out of a box that have like cards that support them, so you still got to look for some super rares and stuff for who you got. But we should look up at the release at some point, because I wonder if it's like those three are like, you got to start off with at least like different deck types, and then it's just one box after that. Because if everyone's just playing the same deck, boring. Or if everyone's open from the same box, there's probably 3 to 4 decks in there, so it's still going to get stale fairly quick, even if you've got a little bit of variety. I'm also interested because the Bandai game, does it have a leader system? Is there something about me building my deck around a person in the set? So like, I've got Killua as like my leader, and he enables some of my cards to do different things. That could be interesting. I know the My Hero, even though that's Jasco, and in the Versus system, they did that. Where it was like, cool, here's a leader, and there's 3 elements you could build off them, but you could only build off 1 element. I think I'm remembering that correctly. So I think we have some options here, but I am really curious to see how this game plays, because I think at this point it would have to be so different from when I'm playing from Bandai that it justified me switching. Because if I'm already going to give everything a shot, I feel like I'm the person where if you bring me a starter deck, we will sit and we will play a game of the starter deck, but something's got to grab me about the system. Something's got to be unique, or this is just another product, another piece of cardboard. And I love shiny cardboard, but it's just more of it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, there isn't a leader system, so that's going to be interesting. I think it plays much more in line with Y Schwartz, but I don't know. Like I said, I got to finish watching this video. You know what, guys? Maybe we'll do like a reaction thing where Frolly and I will watch it, and then we'll talk about it as an aside, as another piece of content. I don't know. We'll see. We come up with these things on the fly. So like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm still just shook that it's coming out. Like, me and Amprov, somebody else in Discord, were talking about it like 2 or 3 days before the announcement was made, and like, yeah, this game will probably never come out over here. It'd be really cool if it did. And then they announced it. It was like, oh shit. And the best part is, guys, it's during my birthday month. So if y'all want to send me stuff next year, that'd be great. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I think just the premise of like Super Smash Bros, the anime version as a card game, is cool as hell. I just hope it's fun. Like, I just hope like it's a lot of fun and not confusing.
Oh, I think Weiss captured a market that we didn't even know existed, of people just want to take their favorite animes and they want to slam them against each other and like do fights, and they want to fight in the style of their anime. Like, they want to have stands from JoJo's or whatever. Like, they really just want to duel it out all the time. So I do think no game truly doesn't have borders anymore. The internet makes everything kind of available, but that's a great point that it could have just got stuck there. It could have just been stuck in Japan and been like another flash in the pan. Because there is, we keep talking about, like, the market seems to keep getting more open and people keep trying stuff. So I don't know how much we can cram into this jar before the jar breaks. But at the same time, they keep handing me stuff and I keep thinking about it because it looks good. And sometimes that's the easiest way of getting other people to play with you too, is if there's something that directly appeals to them. Like the Versus system, when It was like, cool, King Godzilla can fight people from Mortal Kombat, can fight DC heroes. That was cool. Marvel vs. DC has been an argument forever. So when we can actually have those battles, and this is just the anime version, it feels like, of, man, I want to put Goku in a blender against Madoka Magica. Let's find out. And like that, it could lead to some interesting stuff. I wonder if the idea of, instead of One Piece, where we're banking on probably the most popular anime of the last 5 years, are we just banking on that fandom to carry us through the whole thing, like Digimon, like Dragon Ball? Or is there truly a market for all nerds to participate in the same game as long as we flavor it the way they like it?
Honestly, I think with Bandai getting smarter about putting all their games in one roof, like when I was in Pasadena for the last Dragon Ball regional here, and they had Digimon, One Piece, Battle Spirits, Dragon Ball happening at the same time, it's cool as shit. Because it made you go, huh, how's that game played? Huh, let me go check this out. And like, you can kind of do that. Now, it sucks that you can only play one game competitively at a time. Well, let me rephrase. You can play as many regionals as you want, but you only get one Nats and one Worlds you can play in. So you got to pick a game. But on those other days, like what me and Rick plan to go do on day 2 of Dragon Ball, go check out the other games. Go see what's going on. Go pick up a deck. Go play Digimon. Go play whatever. Go play Battle Spirits, because we're here. You might as well. And I think that is the magic that Bandai needs to figure out how to capitalize on, is like, okay, we got to have these events, stick everybody in a room, and hopefully people will cross-pollinate and try different things. And if everything is different enough, it might be the way forward for them, because they are running, I personally think, way too many games. But hey, if they can make it work, then who am I to say don't do it? You know what I mean? And I think finding ways to create these lobbies for people to experience these games together is the only way you're going to find any type of success. Double dipping, because they're really double, triple, quadruple dipping on their audiences, right? And I think the idea of Union Arena is we want to get everybody playing our current stuff, because presumably they like anime, obviously. And then we want to get other people who don't really care about Digimon. They may be weird and not like Dragon Ball, because if you don't like Dragon, they might not like
Hot take of the ep.
They might not like Dragon Ball. They might, whatever, you know what I mean? So like, I think Union Arena is their way of saying we want to get everybody into card games. And it's not like Wise Schwartz, where like literally the reason why I won't play that damn game is like, you see what these cards look like. Like I can't like bring that shit home and say to my wife, hey, look, I pulled some cards, and no, you can't do that. Like it's not a game you can look at cards and be like, this feels weird. And I'm glad that Union Arena is not that. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Cause like, I really thought about getting to White Shores because they had a Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel expansion, and I love Fate Stay Night. But then I looked at some of those cards, I said, let me not. And then I saw they had High School DxD. I said, no, I'm good, because this is just gonna get weird very fast.
I like Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, but I could not be playing a deck. I could not rock up with that with a serious face. I don't think I could. You're right. This is almost Bandai Lurkana, where it's just like, we put it all in here. Everything you like, we just put it all in. It's in a blender. And I wonder, I mean, full speculative, and again, no financial background, but if you could convince people to get into tournaments that were all hosted at the same thing around the same time, especially if you could stagger it, maybe not the full thing, but like a day and a day, like maybe you can't play the main 2 games, but like you have other games the next day. Does that incentivize people to go and do things? Or like you're saying, like, oh man, like let's say you make day 2 Dragon Ball and I drop day 1 because I just get dummied. It's like, at least I have something to do the next day, and potentially pick up something new, or potentially compete inside events and stuff like that. So if they can truly make a roof, like you were saying, or like a house, where it's like, cool, the next 2 days of this hotel is Bandai. I don't know that it'll always function like that, but if you have enough interest, I guess you could justify having big things all connected and justify them all at the same time, instead of being like, the release date we've been on is like, Digimon gets a box, then 2 months it gets another box, and like in between those 2 months is Dragon Ball dropping. Whether to say who comes first, it doesn't matter. But like, you're dropping them one.
Yes.
And if you're in one game, you're like, cool, 2 months relax. like if you're in 2 Bandai games, you're every month or something. So that seems like a breakneck pace. Right now we're trying to fit One Piece into that. So now it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So release wise, it's already chaotic. So you might have to start syncing some stuff up.
Yeah.
But if you can truly stagger it enough, I feel like people might justify playing 1 to 2 games or having a backup plan for going to an event, or encourage more people to go because it's like, oh, well, not only can I play Yu-Gi-Oh, but this is going to be there.
Yeah.
So hopefully Union Arena has some fire gameplay though. Like, I'm gonna, we'll watch that video. We'll definitely get maybe something cheeky on it, but I hope, I guess Bandai hasn't given me a game I didn't like yet, except for Battle Spirits, but I only played the demo deck, so I'm sure I scratched nothing, like not even the surface of that game.
Yeah, Battle Spirits is, I started it. It's like, it's fine. It just didn't hook me in the way that I thought it would. It's fun, but not fun enough for me. And I think that, like, yes, I think that Bandai probably has the data on who's playing what game and who's playing cross-pollinating. And they're probably, like, back there doing their, calculations and shit about, like, okay, if we get everybody in a room, how many of these people are doing, this is my main game, this is my game 2 and 3. And, like, what are the numbers and, like, you know what I mean? Like, where do we position these games so that there isn't enough cross-pollination? Because I think that you see that with Dragon Ball and Digimon. They probably see these people aren't playing both games simultaneously. Rarely do they, like, rare is that, do I meet a Digimon player who's playing Dragon Ball and a Dragon Ball player who's playing Digimon, right? And they know that. So they're like, we can run these tournaments at the exact same time. Because if you notice, they tend to run the same weekends, the same time slots, give or minus an hour. I think that that's kind of like where their kind of next evolution is, using the data that I'm sure that they have on the back end to figure out, like, how do we optimize for everybody to get a piece of the pie and have time to do other stuff. But then with the same time, we expose them at bare minimum to other games. Because once you expose them, I think that's where you can really bring people in, or at least get people interested in trying the next thing. And I think that's all you got to do, because really, it doesn't matter if, let's say, Dragon Ball is losing money. I don't think it, let's just say it is, right? Okay, but One Piece is making up for all of that, right? One Piece is making up all the money that they would probably lose in any of their games for the next little while, when you look at just the massive turnout and the fact that people lose their minds over it. So, it's smarter. It's smart of them, I think, to continue this idea of putting everything under one, like, company, one idea, one location, to keep people, invested in the games.
I mean, to drop what is quickly becoming my catchphrase on the show, to own a printing press. Especially if you're Bandai. Bandai, you better own a couple of them at this point. You'd be doing it yourself. You'll be saving significant money. That makes sense. It is weird to think that, like, almost like some game studios that, like, other games that we have made before are propping up everything else we made.
Yep.
Like, this thing is such money that we can take time on these things. Or that one didn't fire as well. Cool, but, like, it doesn't kill us for releasing something that was, like, subpar. Bandai is stationing themselves to be more of a TCG. I hope that the earlier conversation we had about them hiring people to run that department have that information. Like you're saying, on the back end, like, you had a Card-Ass account, you now have a Bandai TCG Plus account. They know people who are playing games. The app asked me the other day when I went to my locals, what was the last event I participated in, and be specific with the date. That is strange to ask me, but I gave them the information. So I just wonder if that, like, truly has a spot. Because, like, thinking of, like, LGSs or, like, even, like, local spots to play games, how do you carry all of this product? Can you carry all of this product? Or is this the wave of, like, I have seen so many people who order their stuff from online, just from other places. And maybe that's because they don't have an LGS or something like that. Or it's previous to, like, where I am to think about it. But you need a spot to play all these things or get exposed to. So, like, can big events be the only thing that you're doing to, like you're saying, you're definitely getting, I was gonna say something about, like, spreading, but like, yeah, you're gonna get a little bit of, like, probably some con sickness, but you're going to also be exposed to a bunch of games that can be just as addicting, or harmful to you, or your wallet.
Yeah, you're poison. Yeah, man.
But, like, yeah, it would be interesting to see someone try to take over, especially North America wise. I feel like you guys are getting significant amount of support for certain events. There probably is still demand for more and could be more, and won't dispute that. But I also think that like we had the conversation about Mexico, South America, and like Canada. Like where are the events? Like and where are the local events? And how do we get to a point where like if this market is truly so big, why aren't we seeing these kind of things?
Yeah,
I think raises more interesting questions.
I would agree. Yeah, and you know, I think that's why it seems like they're like online clients, please. Let's make those, because that's the only way we're gonna get people to download our shit is if we just put some stuff out and we say, hey, it's free. Play our games, go buy, monetize. It's smart. Curious to see though what that's going to ultimately look like and how that's gonna shake out. I'm praying that tomorrow's a Digimon announcement has something to do with online. That'd be nice. But we'll know. We'll know then.
Oh, the future us are laughing. The fact that we already got to do erratas about what we just talked about.
Yeah, our future selves are like, what the fuck?
I mean, speaking of future selves, like, is there anything off, like, obviously, January will be our next podcast. We'll be back. We'll be talking about a whole bunch of new shit. What is up for the year? Any Nostradamus like predictions for the next year? Any hopes that you're just like, man, if anything happens next year in TCGs for me or for the community, like what are you looking for next year?
Damn, you would put me on the spot with this. You know, I think for me, I'm really just looking for more opportunities for in-person events where like people are able to really come together and try different games, right? Like how we were just talking about, like the Pasadena thing, I think it was the first time outside of what we're gonna see in upcoming Nats where like all the Bondi kids are together. And I want to see more of that because I think that is where the future of growth will be for a lot of these IP and these games that we're really enjoying, because I want everybody to eat. Like I want everything to be as successful as it can be. And that's kind of like, I don't know, like that's the first thing that came to my mind is seeing more of that. Cause as I've experienced it, I'm like, damn, this is fun. But I will say, Bondi, I need y'all to do what Pokemon Company does. And please, at these big events, official judges only. Like people you guys hire. I don't want to see so-and-so, I'm not going, so-and-so from different TOs who may be sponsoring some of the players also judging those. Like I would love for like there to be like an official Bondi presence that like kind of like the Pokemon Company does that can really be an independent third party in terms of mediating some of the stuff that be happening. I think that would be phenomenal. Not saying cut out the TOs, but I am saying that like there needs to be some higher level at some of these other events because I think that would just be really helpful. But like, yes, that's my thought.
Yeah, floor judges versus like head judges and or upper tier judges almost kind of alleviate some of that for you. Where it's like, cool, this guy made this calling, and then you have someone above him, and then even a head judge where you're like, cool, these two are gonna review what just happened to make sure things are there. Yeah, no, not to put you on the spot, but I didn't think about this either. So you're good. But I don't know for this year. What would I like to see in TCGs? I mean, we keep talking about the online clients. I would like to see it because that's something where I feel like on my spare time, on my downtime, that's what I would like to be doing because it allows me to get into it and play it more, and I don't feel disconnected from like not playing for a while or being like, man, like when I play casuals or stuff where I don't feel as connected to that community. You mentioned in-person events. That was going to be one of mine because we just ranted and raved about it because it is so important, I think, to get people together and experience it. And it's a live demo for everybody. I think number one for TCGs that I would like next year is accessibility. I think the reprint set was such a cool idea for Bandai, and I know Dragon Ball's done before with like the Mythic Booster and stuff. I think those sets are so important to drive down costs on some cards that have just got outrageous because people weren't playing at the time. It's the easiest thing for me to recommend for new players to get into because there was new decks in there to build, and there was old staples that they were going to need, and they were at dollar bin prices. I just want more sets where I feel like I can talk my friend into getting a box, and it doesn't feel like, and you're only getting this box because you like this one deck out of it. I like that it might be like, hey, this will be useful stuff for whatever you're playing, and we can pivot from there to what you like playing.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Reprint stuff is a godsend, especially for Digimon and Dragon Ball, obviously, because there's like 23 freaking sets this game. But I think yeah, it was a much needed thing. I know some people were upset because, oh, prices are going to go down. Well, it's okay, it's all right. You didn't need to make $15 off those ties anymore. It's fine. But I think, I mean, this is a good note to end our year on. We'll be revisiting a lot of this stuff in like a month or less, just based on some announcements here. And it has been an awesome year, or I guess 9 months, really recording this with everybody and kind of coming together in community and all that fun stuff. And really appreciate you guys taking the time to record and help come up with ideas and topics. Speaking of Dan as well, obviously he can't be here with us today, but big ups and big thank you to him as well. And yeah, I just want to take the time to say thank you, man. I really appreciate all the time and effort you put into each and every episode that we've done.
I definitely echo that. It feels weird doing it without Dan. And I wish that man nothing but the best, because he's always a good time. He's such a positive influence. I love having him. This one feels a little different without Dan on the track. I need more Dan in my headphones. But you're right. I can't wait to throw everyone off in March when we go, it's been a year! And that's my birthday month, so fuck it. I'm going to drink on that one.
Oh, shit.
But there's so much to look forward to. I've had so much fun doing this podcast. It feels so much more regular. And I feel like I've been developing opinions, or I've been playing more, and I've been testing out more from even games I didn't play much before. I've gone to 2 TCGs this year when I was only playing Digimon before, and I've been playing a lot of Magic, and I've been dabbling with a little bit of One Piece and Vanguard. A lot of people up here love Vanguard, so it's not the worst game. It's definitely interesting. So I've just had a blast, and I can't wait to keep having a blast. And I mean, we said what we were looking forward to next year, but like, honestly, what I'm looking forward to is like just hanging out with people I enjoy and cracking cards. And that's a little joy to want, but that's what I want.
100%. No, I trust and believe, man. I can't wait for Union Arena just because I just want to open some Bleach stuff, man. It's an addiction. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out for the night, evening. I was like, looks like I'm streaming, but I'm not. We're gonna go ahead and close out for this episode. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Share your thoughts, obviously, in the comments section below. Also, if there's stuff that you guys want us to discuss in the, I guess, 2024 launch episode, whatever, let us know, because I'm sure that between now and then there will be some announcements, so we'll definitely cover those there. And yeah, guys, have a good one. Peace.
Take care.